Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Block, expanding beyond the Lakers universe. My guest today is none other than Andrew Fenichel, my guy, one of the biggest sports content creators in the business. Andrew, how are you doing today, man?
What's up, brother? Appreciate you having me on. This is an honor. Love the intro too.
Appreciate it. It gets people that they don't expect it to be as long as it is. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to the late night gang. So on today's show, we're going to be doing way too early NBA awards. And this is meant to be fun, right? Like we will make our arguments and we will give some takes, but we're 10 games into the 2025-26 season. I think some of these awards will probably look foolish 30 games from now, let alone 70 games from now. But this is just a snapshot of where things are at as of Wednesday, November 12th, about 12 p.m. Pacific time. But let's get into it. So the breakdown for today's show is going to be MVP, All-NBA first, second, and third teams, Rookie of the Year, all rookie teams first and second, Defensive Player of the Year, all defensive teams first and second, Coach of the Year, Most Improved Sixth Man. So basically every single award, I guess, except for Executive of the Year, which we can do if you want as well. But
Clutch Player of the Year? No Clutch Player of the Year?
No clutch. I think it's a little too early for that, right? Because we need the sample size. But I guess those are the two awards we won't be doing. But let's start with MVP. I think this was a pretty difficult one for me. Like, I think there is a clear choice, but I do think looking, especially at the top four, but you could even argue the top five, this could go down as a historic MVP race, in my opinion. You have multiple players in their prime or entering their prime, putting up career numbers across the board, and all of their teams are in the top 4 or 5 in their respective conferences. Like, I think this could go down as an all-time MVP race.
Yeah, you said there's a clear choice. I mean, I spent 45 minutes.
I think there's a clear choice, but yeah,
back and forth.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
who's your choice?
I'm kind of curious who you took, but if you want me to go first, guest honors.
Yeah,
I decided to go with Giannis, and I don't know if that's
Okay.
going to be popular here in the Buha fan base, but what it came down for me.
Can't believe
you
didn't pick Luka. Jeez,
Yeah.
man.
Clearly, I'm a hater. Yeah, look, I think what it came down for me is when I looked at, like you said, all of the. I feel like there's a big 5 of choices. There's kind of 5 guys, and I kind of had decided to go with the pure definition of the award for me, which is literally who is the most valuable player to their team. And I would be a hypocrite if I basically didn't go with Giannis when before the season, I thought the Bucks were going to completely suck. I thought this team was like a 12 seed in the East, like that bad, disaster level season for Milwaukee. I said they didn't have any other players ranked inside my top 50. I said they had one other player, Miles Turner, coming in the year, ranked inside my top 100. Obviously, I didn't know Ryan Rollins was an all-star caliber guard. We can get to him later.
He's a beast.
He's a monster. But none of that takes away from the fact that, Giannis is just as good as he's ever been. And then you look at the on-off numbers, and I'd say this is really the statistical case for Giannis for me. The Bucks have a +9 net rating with him on the court. They have a -9 net rating with him off the court. The Nuggets have a positive net rating with Jokic off the court. The Thunder are +10 with Shea off the court, very similar to last year. The Spurs are only 1 point below average with Wemby off the court, which was kind of surprising to me. And the Lakers went 3-1 without Luka, so it's so tight. And I went back and forth on pretty much every single guy, but I ended up going with the Greek Freak himself.
So what's your top 5?
In order or just? Yeah. Oh, man. I would probably go, put him on the spot. I'd go Giannis 1, Jokic 2. I'd probably go Wemby 3, Luka 4, Shea 5.
Okay, so we have the same top 5. It was really close for me. So I went Jokic number one. And the reason, I mean, he was just leading the league in rebounds and he lost that somehow despite getting 15 last night. I don't know how he went from the league leader to, I don't know off the top of my head who's in first, but I was just checking his basketball reference page. But averaging 26, 13, and 11 on 67, 36, 85 splits. And for me, I think like it's a high bar for him, obviously, as a 3-time winner. And with Giannis, I think once you won an MVP, the bar for you to win it again, you have to outdo yourself in a certain way. And looking at it, career high in assists for him, which is like just already as a guy who's averaged, career or double digit assist numbers multiple times, doing like topping himself in that way to me is impressive. But also I look at like career high in field goal percentage and 2-point percentage. Like he just finds ways to be even more efficient. The big thing for me, I'm a big numbers guy. I'm a big advanced metrics guy, and he's number one in basically every advanced metric. And in some of them, it's like the gap between like him and number two is bigger than like the gap between a lot of it's like the Shea or Giannis or Luka, like 2, 3, 4 in some order. But the gaps between like him and the second place guy is bigger than like second to fifth or second to seventh. And so just every number basically points to him being the best player in the world. I think the eye test passes that as well. I also, there's an element here too of, I feel like he probably should have an extra MVP that I know you're not supposed to factor in, but like, I do feel like he's probably had at least one taken from him. At the same time though, to your point, like, so I have Luka 2, Giannis 3, but you're really splitting hairs there. And to your point about Giannis, like career high in points, career high in field goal percentage, he's second or third in basically every metric. So like he has a really strong case. 33, 12, and 6 for Giannis, like 63% shooting. He's just a monster. And then I look at what Luka's doing, and 37, 9, and 9, 37 points per game. And like 49, 32, 79 splits. The thing with Luka that I just did a Lakers show last night and was going through some of the storylines. And like, it's amazing how many career high numbers he's putting up right now. Like career highs in points, free throw percentage, free throw attempts, 2-point percentage, right there, basically matching his career bests in assists and steals. So Luka is having, by all accounts, his best season. And he's a guy who's been in the MVP mix before. You could argue like the narrative of just the body transformation and the trade and like what he's doing now in putting up career best numbers. Like, he might have the narrative in his favor, which we know is like always a factor. Then I get to Shea 4th, Wemby 5th, but you could tell me this order, or you could order those 5 guys in any order and I would be cool with it.
What's crazy about Luka too is he's not even really shooting the 3 that well either. I mean, once he gets to like 36, 37%, where I feel like he usually hovers, I mean, he's going to average 40, right? So yeah, totally agree with you. Put these guys in a random number generator, spit them out, and I'll probably agree with it. My only pushback on Jokic would be that the numbers you cited that, and again, I have Jokic second, so I'm kind of fighting myself here, but the increased assist numbers and the increased efficiency, I would ask how much of that has to do with a better supporting cast this year. I mean, Aaron Gordon.
That's fair.
Right? Go ahead.
No, that's fair. Like Murray is actually playing like an all-star to start the year instead of like he usually comes on in the second half of the season and has like he sort of ramps up progressively throughout the season. Aaron Gordon is having one of his best seasons of his career and has really developed as a 3-point shooter. I mean, this is his best supporting cast he's had. And I think that has been reflected in like right now they are tied for number 2 in the West. They have a plus 13 point differential, which is right there behind OKC. And then net rating wise, they're similar. So like, I think that's part of my argument too, is that this group isn't as good as OKC. I mean, OKC is missing J-Dub right now. So that's impacting that a little bit, but like they've basically been as close to as good as OKC to start the season. And one thing that you referenced, and this is something that I think is the 2 biggest feathers in the cap for Jokic and Giannis, is you mentioned the on-off differential, and looking at it, Jokic is actually slightly ahead of Giannis. It's pretty close, but they're both about, I think it's like 18.7 to compared to 18.3 in terms of the difference them on versus them off. And those are huge numbers. And Jokic, it was just 21 going into last night. It dropped. But then you look at Shea, he's about like 3.5. Luka's a little bit over 3. Wemby's at 11. So in terms of like actual how their team performs and the dramatic swings, Jokic and Giannis are in their own class where it's a little bit different. But that also points, you can make that case for Giannis though, because it's like he certainly has a worse supporting cast than Jokic.
And then it's like, at what point do we start talking about Şengün in this? Because I don't know if you've seen his on-off splits. They're absurd.
Şengün, well, when we get to All NBA, yeah. Şengün's in there. Yep. So my honorable mentions were Tyrese Maxey and Donovan Mitchell. I guess it sounds like you had Şengün in there as well. So you could throw him. I mean, he's on my All NBA second team, not to spoil it yet, but yeah, I mean, Wemby, his numbers have slipped, and obviously we saw like Phoenix and the Lakers have some success against him in terms of how they were defending him, and I think he's still figuring it out, and it's a testament to like how great he is that he's already in this conversation, because these 4 guys could go down as, I think probably will go down as top 25 players of all time, and they're all like in their primes right now, or you know, Jokic and Giannis are probably exiting their primes. I think Shea and Luka are entering their primes, and the fact that Wemby's even like in this conversation is just ridiculous.
I mean, the last time, to put it your way, yeah, 5 top 25 players of all time have been in the same MVP race. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what, like the 08 range when you had LeBron, Wade, Kobe, maybe Garnett was getting some votes still. I don't even remember, right? Like
there was the one, I think it was 2017 where it was like
Harden,
I think it was the Russ year, but it was like Russ, LeBron, Harden, Kawhi. That was a really tough one where you couldn't make a case for. I mean, I was actually on the side of like, I thought Russ was probably 3rd or 4th in that mix, and it was more on like the Kawhi Harden side, but that was like probably the maybe the second best chance LeBron had, because then he had the 1 year, but his first year with AD. I think he was second to Giannis in MVP. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's again, I think this is an all-time, like if we look at like going through it again quickly, like Jokic career high in assists, Luka career high in points, Giannis career high in points, Shea career high in points, Wemby career high in points, rebounds, blocks, and basically all percentages. Like these guys are all posting career best starts to their respective seasons. And like, that's why I think if everyone can stay healthy, and I think all 5 of these guys should be on teams that are top 4 or 5 in their conference, we could have a historic MVP race where we're really going to be splitting hairs in terms of, you know, it'll come down to several factors and narratives and whatnot. So let's get into the All NBA teams. My All NBA first team is the same as the MVP, especially now that they've gone away with the positional designations. So let's get into the second team. Who is on your All NBA second team?
Okay. I had Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, who I think has been spectacular this season for the Celtics, Şengün, Tyrese Maxey, and Donovan Mitchell.
All right. We are very close. I have Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, Alperen Şengün, and Austin Reeves as my All-NBA second team guy, last spot. I gave him the nod. So part of what I want to do with this, you know, it is a snapshot in time, right? And do I think Austin Reeves is better than Jalen Brunson or Steph Curry? No. Do I think he's going to make an All-NBA team above those guys? Most likely not. But as of right now, start to the season, he's averaging more points, rebounds, and assists than both those guys. He is shooting better from the field, and he's posting career numbers in points, rebounds, assists, 2-point percentage, free throw attempts, and free throw percentage. So, like, I want to give Austin the snapshot nod right now as to, like, he's carried this group when Luka's been out, when LeBron's been out. He's putting up crazy numbers. Do I think this is going to sustain? Not at this level. But for now, I gave him the teensiest of edges over Brunson in particular. But if you wanted to argue Brunson, obviously, he's Jalen Brunson. Like, he's a top 10 player.
I thought I was going to be the one going out on a limb and having Reeves on my third team. So you beat me to it. Yeah, I think like you said, as of November 12th, Austin Reeves is absolutely in this conversation. The way he's able to like scale up and down his role is just so impressive. You know, like like you said, the 4 games Luka was out where he was dropping 50-point triple doubles and, looking like prime Larry Bird, like, yeah, that deserves a lot of love here. I guess, again, my pushback would be that for the other 8 games, he's had Luka as a teammate. Jaylen Brown's best teammates have all struggled to start the season. Obviously, the Lakers have the better record than the Celtics, but so we can kind of keep playing this back and forth game. But
you said Jaylen Brown or Jalen Brunson?
Jaylen Brown is on my second team.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Jalen Brunson. My bad. Okay,
maybe I misspoke. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, Celtics, is on my second team.
Got it.
Just because
you're really coming for the chat here.
Yeah, I know. I probably should have known my audience, but yeah, I mean, 28, 5 and 4. 52% from the field. And I think a lot of the questions going into the season were who would be able to increase their offensive load for the Celtics. People were saying, "Oh, Anthony Simons is going to average 20," and "Oh, Derek White's going to show he's scalable." None of those guys have done it except Jaylen Brown. He's been their clutch guy. They're like a 500 team. He's been great, right? And I think he's probably a better defensive player than Reeves, so I might try to steal some votes there. But yeah, again, I had Reeves' third team, so I won't really argue too much.
Okay, so you had Jalen. So we had 4 the same 5 with Maxey, Mitchell, Cunningham, Şengün, and then the 5th spot was the one. Okay, so what's your All-NBA third team?
Third team, man, this was hard. This might have been harder than MVP.
This was really hard.
Yeah, I went Austin Reeves, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Pascal Siakam, and Denny Avdia.
Wow. Okay. We have very different teams, but I like the spirit of discourse here. So I actually didn't have Jaylen Brown on one and the reason I guess for me was with the snapshot of right now, I was factoring in team success. I don't think I have anyone on an under 500 team on my team. So I went Brunson, Curry, Mobley, Giddey, and Randall. And I think people are Randall has benefited from Ant missing some time and that's affected his numbers. But this is a dude who's a multi-time All-Star who's averaging career highs in points and assists in 2-point percentage, 25, 7, and 6. I think he's having a really good year. Then my honorable mentions were Chet, Bam Adebayo, and KD. But I did focus more on winning. So for me, Siakam and Jaylen Brown were an initial consideration. I just ultimately was what are the Pacers right now? 1-9, 1-10, 1-10. Yeah. I just couldn't, in good conscience, put him on. But I get from if you're just making a pure statistical or talent perspective, obviously, then Pascal's, there's a strong case for him.
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on Siakam. If by default he's out because, like you said, they have 1 win, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a little up with that. And maybe you're convincing me on the spot to change it, but I really like the Bam shout out too. Bam and KD were probably the 2 guys I considered closest to adding in. Really quickly on Siakam though, the Pacers have a negative 21 net rating with him off the court, and they're 14 points better. It's what do you want him to do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You put Randall on that team. Do they have a second win? Yeah, probably not.
No, probably not.
So, which I don't know if that's the best faith argument either, but I also am kind of.
I think he's probably a better half court shot creator than Siakam, but Siakam's a better defender, and he's a more versatile player overall.
And Siakam has nearly doubled his assists, this year with Halliburton out, and he's got the entire team is a hospital roster. It's just yeah, if 1 win is 1 win, fine. I think Siakam is one of the 15 best guys in the league, especially after what we saw in the playoff run. So maybe I'm factoring that in a little bit. I just think he's been great, and they've had some close losses too. I think I remember a Philly loss that was pretty close where Siakam was pretty good. And, it's not, to me, it's not like they're getting completely Wizard style blown out every single game. I'll have
we'll be touching on the Wizards here soon. Yeah. We got some Trey Johnson love. Let's get into it. So let's transition to Rookie of the Year. What's your top 3 in Rookie of the Year?
I actually switched this maybe 10 minutes before we went live.
Okay.
I was going to go with Cooper Flag because I think part of it is that people are comparing him to the expectations and not to the rest of the class. Because at the end of the day, the guy's still like 15, 7 and 5 or so. Like the efficiency's not really there. But also when I watch Flag, he gets to his spots. He just can't get anything to fall in that like 3 to 10 foot range. That's like once he gets those floaters down, and already I think his last couple of games have been good. You know, the Bucks game where he hit that crazy and one on Giannis with like a minute to go. I also just think that the Mavs have been so disappointing. But then again, I sort of check some of the on-off numbers, and the Mavs are just so bad with Coop on the floor. And then you check the Hornets numbers with Khan on the floor, and they're actually a competent team. And I think that says a lot about what Khan Knippel's been doing this year. He's already one of the best shooters in the NBA, off the dribble, off the like kind of almost doing everything. He had a near triple-double against you guys a couple nights ago, which was super impressive with no LaMelo on the floor. I think in terms of impacting winning, I just think Khan has done it at a higher level than his Duke teammate, which is kind of nuts to say.
It is nuts to say. He's had a crazy start to the season, and obviously high expectations based on where he was drafted, but I think it's fair to say he has exceeded those. So what's your top? So it sounds like Khan 1, Cooper 2.
Yeah. Cooper 2, Cedric Coward 3.
Okay. We disagree, and I like it.
Okay.
So I have VJ Edgecombe number 1 because I think he is, to me, Philly is. I've been singing the gospel of Philly, and I know I'm probably going to get my heart ripped out here because they're something. I mean, already Embiid's dealing with knee stuff again, and we'll see where that goes. But to be a starting level guard on a team that right now is tied for 3rd in the East, and looking at his on-off stuff, like there's a 7-point per 100 possession swing with VJ on versus off. I think he has come in and exceeded expectations and looked like a future multi-time All-Star, in my opinion. And I do think if we were redrafting, I think Cooper goes number 1. And again, this is 10 games into the season, but right now, I think for redrafting, I think Cooper goes number 1. I still might go Dylan Harper number 2, but I think VJ, that's made that more of a conversation. I think of I'm a little bit higher on him than I was, and I didn't know much about him, to be fair, going into the draft. I knew all the draft nicks were high on him, but he's looked like some Donovan Mitchell, Dwayne Wade like hybrid that shot the ball well. He's played good defense. He's fit into a winning culture. So I have VJ number 1, Cooper number 2, and Khan number 3. So pretty similar to you. With Cooper, I agree. They're playing him at point guard, and he's got some point forward to him, right? But there's a difference between being a point forward and being a point guard. Point forward's more of like a secondary ball handler. Point guard is what we're seeing from him, and it's just like this group is bottom 3 in offense for a reason, because they just don't have many weapons, especially with AD out.
Yeah, I don't think D'Lo has given him a ton of great constructive criticism either in the locker room. But yeah,
you're winning the chat back. You're winning the chat back.
There we go. I know how to play this game. Yeah, my VJ is awesome. Love VJ. Obviously, what he did the first 2-3 games of the year. I just think his last 5-game stretch where he hasn't shot above 50% from the field since pretty much November 2nd. We're coming up on 2 weeks now. It's just a worse 5-game stretch than we've seen from these other, Khan especially, right? And I was watching the game last night, and he was pretty passive to me too in the fourth quarter for how talented of a scorer he was. Part of that is because Tyrese Maxey's just been so good that you kind of just have to give him the ball, but he also had a huge block on Jaylen Brown. So the defense with VJ is good. Yeah. I have VJ 4th, right? It's not like I think the guy has been overrated, but again, Khan just doesn't seem to have bad games. It just seems like every single game is either shooting the ball well or finding other ways to impact winning on a completely dysfunctional roster. So that's the difference.
I think there's a clear top 4 here. So assuming going into the first team all rookie, I assume those are 4 of your 5, and then who's your 5th guy?
Come on Come on, Jovan.
All right, let's hear the Trey Johnson gospel.
He's just an efficient scorer from day one, and he was coming off the bench. The Wizards also have sneaky more like guards than you think. It's not like he's getting a VJ Edgecombe type of usage rate or minutes, so he's had to fight to start the last few games. And then, his splits, he's shooting 44% from the field, 38% from three. He's kind of doing it within the rhythm of the offense. He's averaging 12 a game. It hasn't been the perfect start. Defensively, he's pretty bad. My guy Trey needs to figure it out on that end. But, he's kind of just been everything I've looked for him, especially as a shooter. And so that's why he got my spot.
So I had Dylan Harper as first team, but he's with more time passing, he's going to lose out just by due to injury. I was really impressed with his start. I thought like his footwork is incredible, and like the decels, the Euro steps, he looks like a player who's in like year 3 or 4 compared to a rookie. Like being a rookie point guard is one of the hardest jobs, if not arguably the hardest job in the NBA, which is again why the Mavericks are not setting up Cooper Flag for success. But like Dylan Harper has looked like a multi-year veteran when he's been out there. So I give him the edge for now. Again, I'm focusing, but I do think like if with more time passing, he will fall back into second team and then potentially out of consideration, at least for now, because of the injury. But I do have Trey Johnson on my second team, Jeremiah Fears, Will Richard, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Derek Queen, with a few honorable mentions to Colin Murray Boyles, Sion James, and Nick Clifford. But like this has been a fun rookie class. I really like this rookie class.
Super fun. Yeah, I just didn't have Dylan Harper on either team because he's played 6 games.
It's fair. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, he's been better than Trey on a per game basis, but he's played half the games, So
yeah,
I had Colin Murray Boyles on my second team, but yeah, like you said at the top, if we're making projections for who ends up on first team, I'd probably go with Dylan.
Yeah. So I mean, again, like I've really liked what we've seen from Jeremiah Fears. I think Derek Queen has been coming along recently. Kalkbrenner stepping in as, there you go, Charlotte, like couple of interesting rookies. Okay, let's get into defensive player of the year. Who's number 2 on your ballot? Because I think we know who number 1 is.
Yeah, that's a good question. This was also pretty tough. I feel like all defensive teams and fighting for second right now in defensive player of the year voting is tough on a small sample size. I would probably have, I didn't come up with a top 3 for Depoy. I would probably either have Mobley or Draymond.
Fair. I had Wemby 1, Amen Thompson 2, Draymond 3.
Yeah.
There's been some really dramatic defensive splits with Draymond on versus off for Golden State, that their defense just dies when he's not out there. With Mobley, he's obviously playing with Jared Allen, who's a good rim protector. And then Dyson Daniels was also in consideration for me. So those, and then all defense first team, Wemby, Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels, Draymond, Evan Mobley. That was my top 5.
Mine was a little different. I had Wemby, Mobley, Draymond, Cade Cunningham, and Donovan Clingan.
Okay.
Some of the Clingan numbers are pretty
Clingan's
long.
a beast.
Yeah. Defensively. Offensively, he's got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But
No. Offensively, it's rough. He can barely catch and finish. My second team, you're going to sense a theme here from a certain team. Chet Holmgren, Kason Wallace, Alex Caruso, then Asar Thompson and OG Anunoby, and then honorable mention to Bam. So, with the all defense teams, it's like you can make a list of 20, 25 guys. It's also so early in the season that you're splitting hairs among a bunch of these guys. It's just sort of like, yeah.
I went, real quick. For second team, I had Chet on there. I had Bam Adebayo on there. But with both of them, they've both played, I think, 8 games. So
the games are,
they were right on that. Like Dylan Harper played 6, they played 8. I don't know.
I guess in hearing you talk it through, I didn't factor in games as much for just because most teams have played 10, 11 games. So I'm like, as long as you played like a little over half of your games, I'm going to consider you. But obviously with a larger sample size, that's going to play in more.
Yeah. And then I had Amen Thompson, Tumani Kamara, and Scotty Barnes.
Okay. So we had similar, like, I mean, Kamara and Klingon, Portland's been awesome defensively. So you could certainly make the case for those guys. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good defenders in the NBA. What about coach of the year?
I had Eric Spoelstra.
Okay. What's your top three?
My top three also didn't put together a full ballot, but let me see.
Sorry, I realize I might have not given you the best the best directions, but I wanted a full ballot. I could go if you want.
You go first.
Okay, so I have JB Bickerstaff number 1.
Yeah.
In Detroit, and that's kind of the typical like overachieving team where I think, but I do think Detroit has taken like a real leap. Like Cade is leveled up, Jalen Duren is leveling up, Oscar Thompson is leveling up, and I think like we saw that they had a really impressive showing in that first round series against the Knicks, and I think that has continued into this season. And do I think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the East? No, but could they be the 3 seed? Could they be the 4 seed? And replace like Orlando or Atlanta or whoever was your pick for that number 3 spot, like potentially. And if Detroit's the number 3 seed, I think that's a testament to JB Bickerstaff, who I think was obviously, a bit maligned in Cleveland with how things went there and how things ended. So I have Bickerstaff 1. I have JJ Redick number 2 because of Lakers 8-3, 4th in the West. We're 2nd in the West as recently as a couple days ago. And no LeBron, Luka's missed multiple games, Austin's missed multiple games. And for a team that I think is deeper than we think now, but like entering the season, there was a lot of question marks with their depth. To miss Gabe Vincent for most of the season, missing Smart, Ayton, like they've had guys in and out continually. And for them they've also played one of the toughest schedules in the league. For them to be 8-3, I think, is a testament to JJ pushing a lot of the right buttons with the lineups and the rotation and the schematics. And then I have Mitch Johnson, number 3, from San Antonio, where like this is another situation where I think this team has arrived in a way that I was high on San Antonio, but I was more high on San Antonio in like they can maybe be the 6th seed, and maybe that's still the way this plays out. But they're the 2 seed right now, and they've done most of this with De'Aaron Fox only playing in a couple of games. So the fact that they've had their 2nd best player out, this is a group that also has some depth concerns, also has some guys who have never been in the playoffs or been in like a winning situation. The fact that they're playing the way, of course, like Wemby is the driving force beyond this, but Wemby was Wemby last year too, not to this level, but like, I think there's been a lot of like Castle getting better. I've really liked Champagny off the bench. I just think there's Mitch Johnson deserves a lot of credit. So then honorable mentions Dagnall, Nick Nurse, Spoelstra, Billy Donovan, David Adelman. Like I think this is a really tough coach of the year race as well.
Yeah. So as you were listing off your top 3, JB Bickerstaff would probably be number 2. And then, I was going to go Redick 3. And I guess with Bickerstaff, like you said, it's kind of just hey, they're the 1 seed in the East. No one thought they'd be there. He deserves some votes. And like you said, like the player development's been good, et cetera. I guess my case for Spoelstra real quick would just be that, again, I didn't think the Heat would be good at all this year. Like I was just looking at that roster and I was like, man, I like Norman Powell. Maybe Jaquez gets better, but like Hero's out for the first month. I'm like, how is this team going to win 5 games before Tyler Hero gets back? All of a sudden, they're 7-4. Even like the play call we saw on Monday for the Wiggins game winner, vintage Spo, right? All, getting contributions from, every single part of the roster. I just think, the Heat have been a fun watch. Everyone's playing well, and it's a very Spo team in terms of like high caliber role player-esque guys stepping into larger roles. And we know Spo's that good. We know he's that dude. So I'm going to give him.
He's probably the best. Like he's the best coach in the league. He just got named to be the next head coach of Team USA. Like,
right.
I'm with like it was close. I gave again. I think Relatively, I would say for me, Detroit, LA, and San Antonio are overachieving a little bit more relative to like LA. I thought this would be like, I picked the Lakers fourth entering the season, but that was with the presumption that they would be relatively healthy. Like if I knew LeBron was gonna miss the first 15 games of the season and like they were gonna have some of the injuries they've already had, I probably would have been a little bit lower on them. So I do think the Lakers have overachieved relative to the injuries in the start, and then Detroit and San Antonio have both like leveled up in a way that I think has been meaningful. But I mean, OKC just continues to steamroll along as like, I was talking about it last week with Mo DeKeel. I'm like, it's kind of funny that we sit here, we talk about this, we talk about that. And it's like, well, OKC is just crushing everybody left and right. And it doesn't matter who's in, who's out. They win without J-Dub, they win without Chet, they win with rotating cast of role players. Like they're just automatic. And a big game tonight against the Lakers. What about most improved player?
Most improved player, again, a lot of guys I feel like can go with this. Also for myself, I don't actually have a vote, but if I did, I have like a self ban on former lottery picks and second year players for this award.
Okay.
I just don't think it makes sense to, unless it would have to be like a complete outlier of like a guy who was completely, like if Cody Williams, not to, call out Cody Williams, but if he was all of a sudden 25, it's like, okay, maybe that's an exception, right? But
yeah,
otherwise, I just think those guys too often get credit in this award when they're just good young players taking the jump we all kind of expected them to take. Point being,
okay,
I'm going with Keontae George on the Jazz. I was not a huge fan of his the last couple of years, specifically because of the efficiency that I just didn't think was there, and I didn't really think would be there for kind of a smaller point guard. And hey, he's answered every question. He's shooting, 40-something% from the field. His three-point volume is down, which I think has helped a lot for him. He's getting to the rim more. He's averaging 7 assists a game for the Jazz, especially with Isaiah Collier out. That's been good. They've been competitive. I know they're 3-8 or something like that. But I still
they've
think
been fun. They're a fun team,
right? And
they're 4-7. They're 10 seed right now. They'd be in the play-in.
Right? So yeah, I guess for me, third-year guy, he was sort of a mid-first round pick. I wasn't really seeing the vision after last year, and I just think he's kind of really stepped up, and he's just been a good player.
That is fair. What about 2 and 3?
Yeah, again, didn't come up with a ballot. I'd probably have Hawkes in there off the top of my head, just because he's kind of like a bounce back, most improved, and then again, it's like with this, I would want to say like an Austin Reeves, but which is maybe where you're going with, but like I feel like he was this good last year. He just never got the shot to prove it, or I don't know. You
so. Yeah, so I'm gonna. So Sky Falcon 5 in the chat says AJ Mitchell. The one thing with AJ Mitchell is he's a second-year player, so that's where like I think ideally you level up from year 1 to year 2. He's obviously taken a big leap, and like he might. He's testing that where like he's improved so much from year 1 to year 2 that he could be in that mix. Mishra says Maxey. That was another player I gave consideration to. So I am going to violate your rules here, and I will explain why in a second. But my top 3 in MIP are Austin Reeves, Josh Giddey, and Denny Avdia. Excuse me. And then my honorable mentions are Ryan Rollins, Jalen Duren, and Keontae George, who wanted to give a shout out to. And then you could also probably throw in Maxey in there. And I guess Maxey, by the logic of that I'm going to lay out for Austin Reeves, it is similar for Maxey. But I think with Reeves, Giddey, and Avdia, they all showed like kernels of this last season, especially Giddey and Avdia to close the season. If you look at their splits in like March and April, both guys were putting up similar numbers. But I think with Giddey, like I think the shooting is real at this point, and that's been a real improvement. And I thought he could be the primary ball handler for a good team, but I didn't know he could be like the best player on a good team. And we'll see how long Chicago keeps this up. They've already started to come back down to earth, but like Giddey's ascension and the Bulls being legit, he has been the primary driving force, at least on the court. I think you have to give Billy Donovan a lot of credit as well. With Denny, he's even leveled up from like his close to the season. And if you just look at like last season to this season, he's made a big jump across multiple categories and going from like 18 points a game to 25. Like I think my theme here with my most improved guys are like going from good to like all-star level good. I think that's a tough jump to make. And then Austin, like he's had these big games with LeBron out, Luka out, AD out, but it's kind of been these one-offs, right? And now we're seeing him do it consistently at a level where it's been basically every night he's a walking 25 plus points and 7-8 plus assists. And to have the game he had against the Timberwolves and to sort of conquer those demons in Minnesota, a series like he was not good in the playoffs. He struggled against them, and to have Luka out, LeBron out, Jaden McDaniels is hounding him all night. Rudy Gobert is playing up to touch and like that's a duo that gave him problems in the playoffs. He torched them, and even when they started to play more aggressively, he started to pick them apart. So like. With most improved, it's always like what argument you want to make, right? I do think though there's something to leveling up from like a good starter to an all-star level player. With Giddey and Avdia, they have the draft capital to your earlier point of like Giddey was number 6 pick, Avdia was what 8 or 9. So like you kind of expected those guys to be good, but I think they've even exceeded my expectations of like what they could be up to this point. And then with Reeves, obviously like I just laid out all NBA second or all NBA third team right now. Like that, I didn't have that on my bingo card for Austin Reeves. I thought he could grow into like being a fringe all-star. Where right now, if we were drafting all-star teams, Austin Reeves is on it.
Yeah, and look, you had Giddey on your third team, right? All NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Denny on my third team. So they've both been great. I think my counter argument, once again, would just be what you said, that we saw it last year. I sort of think second half of last season was their most improved player campaign, so I'm not shocked by either guy being this good. So I don't really see the improvement through the offseason, I guess.
I would say with all three of them, like I did go through it because I tried to make that counterpoint in my head of like, how much, like I do think all three have been better this, especially Austin, like, because even I looked at like post Luka trade, Austin was like 25-5. Right now he's averaging 35-9. So that will go down once LeBron comes back. But I do think Austin, that's why Austin's my pick. Now, you could make this a similar case to Tyrese Maxey. He's averaging career highs in points, rebounds, and assists, and he's doing it at an even higher level than Austin. So I guess by that logic, like Maxey, again, was an honorable mention, but like maybe he deserves more of a shout in this race. But it's tough, like, because I think Ryan Rollins is more of like the prototypical definition of this, where this guy was like a journeyman bouncing around multiple teams. Teams I'm sure are kicking themselves right now, including your Wizards, but also Wizards could use him, Warriors could use him, and now even last year with Milwaukee, like he had a couple flashes, but not really much, and all of a sudden he's ascended into like a legit starting level point guard that I just did not foresee. So he's probably the more like prototypical definition. But for what it's worth, Giddey's the odds-on favorite right now. I was looking at sports books just to kind of cross-reference my selections, and Giddey right now is the favorite.
Yeah, makes total sense. I see it.
And then last one from the awards races, and then we'll get into some questions if people have questions in the chat. Sixth man of the year. Who's your pick, and what's your top three?
Yeah, so someone just dropped in the chat a second ago when we were talking about most improved. I'm going with AJ Mitchell. I know he started, I think, 4 games. Someone fact checked me on that. So maybe he doesn't qualify in the Buha's block, beyond the block. And
hey,
awards.
man, you go for it. You whatever you want. It's your world.
Man, I watched AJ Mitchell in person one game when he was at UC Santa Barbara. It was like a Tuesday night. My family's up there. So I was like, you know what? Heard there's some potential NBA guy on this team. I don't even remember who they're playing. Let's go check him out. Fell in love with his game. He was like a big guard, lefty, crafty, but like he was just so clearly like the best player on the court then. Loved him in the draft. Didn't think he'd be a 20-point a game scorer in year 2, right? So Yeah, I mean, his efficiency is absurd. His on-off numbers are great. Defensively, I feel like he's always everywhere. I think he's among the league leaders in deflections. I was looking at some of that stuff earlier. 17, 4 and 4, 2 steals, does everything. Shea trusts him. I think that's another thing I've noticed. Like, Shea will give him the ball and let him go to work. And yeah, for the best team in the West, like, what else is there need to be said?
Totally fair. I have Jaime Jaquez as my sixth man of the year. And I think he, like, to go back to the Spo argument for coach of the year, like, he obviously reinvented their offense in a meaningful way where they are running not only the fewest ball screens in the NBA this season, but one of the fewest numbers going back like 10, 15 years. And it's been this dribble drive where, system where they are just leveraging, honestly, a lot of Jaime Jaquez's gifts and his talent to just like, I saw it firsthand against the Lakers where they just spread the floor and they just drive at your chest. And it is, I think, reinvigorated his game. And you're seeing with him, it's career highs across the board in points, rebounds, assists. And the percentages can certainly be better. And that's an area for him to continue to refine. But like, I think he's been such an integral piece, especially with, you mentioned it earlier, like no Tyler Hero, Norm Powell has been injured and missed some time. Jaquez has been that primary force next to Bam, at least on the perimeter. So I almost consider him like a starting level player for the Heat, right? Like it's kind of a semantics thing where he comes off the bench, but then he plays a lot in his closing games and whatnot. But right now I would give it to him. I have Quentin Grimes second, who I think has been stellar in those 3-guard lineups with Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. And I think, has continued, like he was a guy who really popped. I mean, we could get into the Nico Harrison stuff now briefly if you want. I know we had wanted to touch on that, but he popped in Philly post Philly Dallas trade and is obviously come back down to earth a little bit, especially playing behind Maxey and Edgecombe. But those 3-guard lineups have been really good together. And I think, his numbers are pretty comparable to Jaquez. And then I have AJ Mitchell third. I think the one ding for me for AJ Mitchell is just that I think Alex Caruso also belongs in this conversation. So there's a little bit of like, you could argue he's not the most valuable bench player on their team. Like Caruso's playing fewer games, playing fewer minutes, so that lowers his overall value. But like Caruso is a monster, right? And for my money, is one of the best defenders, and I had him on my all defense second team. So I think that's the only kind of argument here. But AJ, like, it's a really strong 6th man of the year race as well, and all those guys are putting up. I think they're all at like 17 points a game, so it's very close.
Yeah, I had Jaquez 2, Caruso 3.
Okay.
I do like how the 6th man of the year award is no longer just, hey, who's the guy who's going to score 20 off the bench on like kind of just below league average efficiency. It's kind of cool, like developing the award. We got all these different kind of dudes now.
It used to just be who's averaging the most points off the bench, and that's the player who gets it. And really, like, going back to rookie of the year and that whole conversation, that's kind of been, I forgot who did it. It was either last year or the year before. It's basically like add up points, rebounds, and assists. Whoever's the leader, that is always the rookie of the year. And so that will probably be the case this season as well. But anything in the chat, any questions you guys want us to answer before Andrew gets out of here? Flashhawk says, who do you think has upped their trade value? That's an open-ended question. Is there anyone that comes to mind?
After 2 nights ago, CJ McCollum. He was horrible to start the season.
The Wizards propaganda is happening.
Yeah. Hey, this is my time to shine right now.
Hey, it's your platform. Go for it.
Yeah, I didn't like the Jordan, but CJ's on a 1-year deal. I think his last 3 or 4 games, he's been red hot. Yeah, he had 40 against the Pistons on NBC, and I don't know. I'll take a first for him.
I like it. We got Boji Snow here asks, how difficult is it being a Wizards fan?
Man, brother, you don't even know. I dream of 2016 way too often. I dream of John Wall all the time. We'll get there, though.
Do you just wake
I
up in the
believe.
middle of the night with like an image of Kelly Olynyk?
Yeah, right. Or Paul
I really
Pierce.
like that team. I thought I'm on the record as being like I try to be impartial and objective and not root for certain things, but naturally throughout the course of a season or a playoff series, there will be teams I enjoy more or teams I like watching more, and I really liked that Wizards team, and I mean I grew up a Lakers fan, so I grew up a Celtics hater, and for that series, I really wanted Washington to win, and that did not happen.
Yep.
Let's see here. Sky Falcon 5, what team is most disappointing? I mean, I would have to say Dallas would be like I was lower on Dallas, that I viewed them as like more of somewhere in the 7 to 10 range, where I know some people were even higher on them than that, or higher. Yeah. But I mean, I guess you could throw in Orlando. I did not anticipate Orlando being below 500 at this point in the season, and being, I mean, the Clippers are also like those. That's probably the big three of disappointing teams. Would be the Mavericks, Clippers, and Magic. Magic are on the mend.
I think the Mavs, I was pretty high on the Mavs, but also I thought Nico would trade for another guard by now. And I also was sort of assuming like, hey, they'd be a second half team once Kyrie comes back. The Clippers being 3-7, and when I've tuned in, it's kind of been pretty lifeless. I think there was this Warriors game, maybe second week of the season I watched, and they put up like 14 points the entire third quarter. The bench has been so disappointing. Like Chris Paul has not been good, sadly. Brook Lopez has been worse than I thought. The Clippers are 3-7. I mean that to me, I would almost say is even worse.
I don't know if you saw it as we were recording. The news came out: Bradley Beal is done for the season.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'll always root for Brad, but he's been horrible too. So, what do you want me to say?
He was being held back in he was being held back in Phoenix.
Yeah, right.
And then somehow has been even worse with the Clippers to start this year.
Yep.
Yeah, season-ending hip fracture.
Damn, sounds painful.
Yeah, and then so we Hawks are in there. Like Hawks, at least Trey's been injured, so they have like a little bit of an excuse. Where if you told me that going to the season, Smokey, thoughts on Georgia's potential All-NBA All-Star? Here we go.
We're taking over. This program. Get into a Wizards. Yeah.
Wizards getting a lot of shine.
Hey man, yeah, Keyshawn, dude, he has so much more potential, I think, than people even want to talk about. Right? Obviously, he's been better than expected, but like at his size, with his feel for the game and the way he's able to sort of slow it down and create offense defensively, he's really good. I mean, I think he's a top 30 defensive player in the league right now. Except when he picks up fouls. He has a really bad issue of getting into foul trouble, which would be one of my sort of comments on his potential all-star case. Like, yeah, he has a few things. The shooting is still a little too inconsistent. The scoring is still a little too inconsistent. But give it 2 years. Like, after Alex Sarr, I think he is like the second guy on the Wizards with the second most upside. So I like it. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets there one day.
Above Trey?
Honestly, yeah. I think Trey has the higher floor just because Trey's going to shoot. You know what I mean? If you can shoot 40% from three like Trey's going to do, you're going to be good. But Keyshawn at his size is just so, defensively, it's not even close.
Then a couple more here before we wrap. AJ goated, LeBron, All-NBA second team again. He's not going to play enough games, most likely. He's already missed 11 games, going to miss 12 tonight. And then if, let's just say, like, optimistically, he returns the beginning of next week, he'll probably have missed already 14, 15 games. And then you can only miss 17 to be considered for an All-NBA. So I would be surprised if he plays every single game the rest of the season. So with LeBron, like when we were talking about Austin and his candidacy, like that is one advantage that Austin has, is he will check the boxes for games played. And there's a scenario here where LeBron is, I think he's going to make the All-Star team most likely, just because he's LeBron and he'll get the fan vote. He'll probably get the player vote, and then he might not get the media vote. But if you get two of those three, you're going to be in. So I could see him still being an All-Star starter, but in terms of All-NBA, I don't see him being eligible. And then final one here from Flash Hawk. Who do you want the Wizards to trade for? This is Wizards corner.
Yeah, I don't really want us to trade for anybody other than more picks. Trying to think if there's like a buy low young guy I would take a swing on. Maybe if like Rob Dillingham just completely falls out in Minnesota, like I would take a swing on him. Someone like that. I don't really know. He's not really getting a ton of minutes out there, but we do need a long-term answer at the one, and maybe we'll answer that in the draft. But I would be looking to like buy low on some young guys, which is kind of what the administration's done already with, an AJ Johnson and a few other Cam Whitmore, guys like that.
What's the minimum you would give up or trade CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton for? I guess the inverse of this is like, what would you want to get back for selling off some guys?
Middleton, I actually don't want to trade. And I don't think we're going to get an offer given how big his salary is.
The contract's big.
So Middleton, I actually want to keep around because I think like SAR's numbers have always been better with Middleton on the court. He's just kind of a good vet. He's a good player, right? Unless, of course, he were to be like, hey, guys, I can't do this anymore. Like, get me on a winning team. CJ?
Is it expiring? Yeah, 33.3 expiring from Middleton. So.
Yeah, no one's trading.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting. CJ's 30.7. I just was looking up quickly the contract situation. So both guys are expirings.
Yeah, I see one guy, Young Lito, in the chat saying they're both going to be bought out. I thought Middleton might get bought out last year, but we held on to him. It's kind of just hard to say. CJ, yeah, man, if we can get like a protected first, get a swap for him, something like that. Maybe take on the Paul George salary. There you go. That's actually a good answer to the last question. That's kind of like,
okay.
If we could get a real asset to take on Paul George, I think I'd do it.
Yeah, let's see how many more years does he have. He's making 51.7 this year, 54.1 the next year, 56.6 player option in 2027-28. This is my favorite running bit on my show, but I will break the news here. Paul George will be picking up that $56.9 million player option. He will be exercising that in 2027-28. So that's a lot of money to take on. That's a pretty tough contract. But hey, if you get, I guess, like a future Philly first or even more, that would be enticing. Would you take Jeremy Grant's salary from Mistra here?
He's been playing pretty well.
He's got 2 more years at I think it's in the mid-30s.
And what, CJ's going back to Portland? Or maybe that's a Middleton.
Maybe that's
swap?
the Middleton or CJ, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to give us something, it depends what else we're getting, I guess, is the cop-out answer.
It's fair. Well, Andrew, this was fun. We will certainly have to do this again, and we'll have to do an awards check-in. Maybe we'll do this every few months, right? Like midway through the season, then end of the season. We'll see where we're at. We'll track how our answers have aged. I think 30 games from now, we'll be looking back at this laughing. But appreciate you. Where can people find you? Obviously on YouTube, Andrew Fenichel. You're at Drew Fenny on multiple platforms, but anything you want to plug before we transition to the corner 3?
That's it, man. Appreciate you having me on. Everyone who doesn't already subscribe to Jovan, please do. This guy's killing it. And
Appreciate it.
Man, I will always come on whenever you give me a call. So we'll have to do something on my channel.
Let's do it. All right, man. Appreciate you. The man, the myth, the legend, Keoni, for the corner 3. How you doing, man?
Awesome. Pretty good. How you doing, Brate?
I'm doing well. We
Can
have
you hear me?
yes. We have a fun one today. We are doing a little bit of a Dallas autopsy. The Athletics top 25 players of the past 25 years and the new All-Star game format. Let's start with Dallas. I've talked about this a little bit. I feel like I've poured my thoughts out, but what was your reaction to the firing of Nico Harrison 9 months after he should have been fired, and where Dallas goes from here?
Yeah, I think it was inevitable. And you could argue there were reasons to think about trading Luca. I don't think we have the men's health cover that we had this summer. If he didn't have the motivation from having been traded, and he didn't seem, at least from the reporting from McMahon and people close to the Mavericks, it didn't seem like he was interested in being on their program. He had his own program he wanted to do, and it didn't seem to be working this last year. But you have to, I mean, especially Nico coming from a marketing and branding background instead of an operations background. I could kind of see if he was like an operations background, he's so focused on the court, but he comes from a branding background. So he should have known what like Luca meant to that city, to that franchise, like the idea of trading him, and to not get value for it, and to not open up the process is GM malpractice, I thought. Just like trusting another GM, let's keep it silent. I'm glad he did, because that means Luke is a Laker, selfishly, but I mean, that's how I just don't understand how you operate like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
feel like
he galaxy brained the whole process, right? And I think if we want to entertain, like I thought there was a recent comment, I think it was yesterday, from George Sedano on ESPN LA radio, where he said he talked to a Dallas executive, and I don't know if that was Nico, but it did sound like something Nico would say or think, for whatever that's worth. Obviously, I don't know who this anonymous person was or who he spoke to, but it sounded a little Nico-ish, and it was basically like after Kobe lost in the finals, he had a certain response to it, and I had an upfront look at that. And after LeBron lost in the finals, he had a certain response to it, and I just thought, like, with those two guys being such prominent Nike players and Nico being a Nike executive at the time, it kind of would make sense if he obviously was close with Kobe, had the relationship with Rob, and had a pre-existing relationship with Rich and LeBron. So, like, kind of piecing it together, I figured it was Nico. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But that, based on how those two players responded to losing in the finals versus how Luka responded losing in the finals, that was what like really drove Dallas to go in this direction of moving on from him. And if I don't agree with that, and I think that's, again, like overthinking the situation. And Dallas had I think people forget, Mavericks fans won't forget, but the general public forgets how good Dallas looked at times to start last season, and they were starting to look better before Luka's injury. And we'll never know, if Dallas just doesn't trade Luka, what happens last season. And I think OKC was probably inevitable, and the way that they were playing and coming together, they probably win the West, and they probably win the championship again. But we saw Dallas beat them the season before, and we just will never know what that would have looked like with Dallas and Luka and those pieces. But I think even if we want to take what was coming from the Dallas side at face value and say like those were legitimate reasons to move on from Luka, you had to do your due diligence and scour the market and get the most you could for him. And I think ideally get a young foundational piece to replace him, plus more draft capital. But the fact that they didn't get the requisite draft capital, and they got, albeit a top 10 player at the time, but an aging one, a player who has obviously dealt with an extensive injury history, like, it just was, I think, a failure on both the player acquisition side and the asset acquisition side. I think it's probably gone as poorly as possible, right? Like, like AD has played in 14 of 41 games. Dallas is one of the worst teams in the league right now. I don't think you could have foreseen it going like this poorly necessarily, but even in like a more optimistic or better scenario, it still wasn't going to be what it was with Luka. And that's where you just had to move on. And like the fan base, it had turned so sour with the fan base that there was no coming back from it. And keeping Nico around, like the fire Nico chants, just like this was for lack of a better term, like a cancer within the whole situation that they just needed to extract.
And that's Nico's fault. How he handled the aftermath is why the situation is what it was with the public. But also just not understanding who Luka is. He's not Kobe Bryant. He's not LeBron James. He didn't grow up in America. He grew up in Europe. He has a very different, I remember when LeBron broke the scoring record, someone went to Luka and was like, "Hey, do you think you could catch him?" And he's like, "I'm never going to play that long." Similar to Joker, like people talk about, Joker will probably leave earlier than later, and I just don't think they view basketball the same way, and that's not a problem. But you have to understand that. You have to understand the culture. Probably should have used Dirk more to be a go-between, to try to find some kind of accommodation with Luka to move forward. Should have gave it one more roll of the dice. Should have probably put him on ice for last year. He had a lot of injuries. He wasn't in shape. See if he can come back during the summer and what could happen this year. And then maybe you think about those things. But I think he was too focused on, well, these guys did it this way. But that's like management 101. You have to manage everyone as an individual, not as someone else.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's go into the athletic top 25 of the past 25 years. So I'm going to share the list here. And, all right, here we go. So this is the list. They have LeBron number 1, Steph number 2, Tim Duncan number 3, Kobe number 4. I'm sure the chat's going to love that. Jokic number 5, KD number 6, Shaq number 7, Giannis number 8, Dirk number 9, D Wade number 10, KG number 11, Kawhi 12, CP3 13, James Harden 14, Nash 15, Russ 16, AI 17, Dwight 18, Luka 19, Pierce 20, AD 21, Kid 22, Tatum 23, Melo 24, Shea 25. So I think after LeBron, things get really interesting because Steph, Duncan, Kobe is certainly one way to put that order. But what's your first thoughts looking at this list in general, and then we can maybe get into some of the specific player debates?
Yeah, I guess I don't understand it really. Where are they valuing things at? And I just think Shaq was way too low. Of all the people, I thought Shaq was way too low just because of the impact he had on the game. And three Finals MVPs, the leader of a dynasty, and then I would put Kobe above Duncan. I probably would have had LeBron, then Shaq. I probably would have had Steph ahead of Kobe, and then Kobe. But Iverson's way too low too. I mean, the guy was a scoring leader multiple times, MVP, took a really garbage team on his back to the finals, and to have him below guys who never made it to the finals is I'll take, I guess. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, there's a couple things here because one of the interesting things that I think they didn't do a good job of promoting is this part here, which is all statistics begin with the 2000-2001 season. Achievements before 2000-2001 are noted, but it's starting with the 2000-2001 season, which is an interesting distinction because when we did our top 25 Lakers of the past 25 years and we drafted the teams, I started with the 1999-2000 season because that, for me, I mean, yes, there's like a couple months there in 99, but that to me was like the first official season going into the new millennium. So if you go by 2000, 2001, you chop off a title from Kobe and you chop off a title from Shaq. So that does change it, where Shaq goes from 4 to 3, Kobe goes from 5 to 4. And because one of my, like the initial reaction for me was looking at it, Kobe's won 5 titles in the millennium. Duncan's won 4 because Duncan won in 98, 99. So already, like the Duncan Kobe debate will live on forever, right? And there's people on like, it feels like a pretty close to 50-50 thing that, you know, people can't really, like, we can't get a consensus on it necessarily. But if you're taking off Duncan's title, like, I think that does swing it to Kobe. Now, if you take off Kobe's first title because of the years they're considering here, now it's 4 versus 4. And I guess it's back to being more of an argument. But in general, I would agree that I would go Kobe 2. I'd probably go Duncan 3 and Steph 4. That would be my. Now, the thing with Shaq, I think Shaq versus Jokic is fascinating because Shaq eliminating his 90s run, Shaq has a major fall off if you look at it just statistically, starting in the 2003, 2004 season. So if we're also chopping off 99, 2000 and just looking at 2000, 2001 and on, Shaq does have 3 titles, including 2 finals MVPs, but he really has like a 3 to 4 year monster peak that I think Jokic has gotten close to, but also done at more of like a 7 to 8 year run. So from like a long, I think in the regular season, Jokic has been the better player. And I don't think with the given years, I don't think it's debatable, but then you factor in the playoff success and it's like, well, one guy has 3 titles, one guy has 1. But again, with Shaq, it's like, it's basically 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002, 2002, 2003. And then there's a big drop off where he is like not really the same player. Like he's now closer to like a 20 point per game player and then even drops off below that. So I don't know. It's tough to based on the constraints. I can see why people would pick Jokic over Shaq, but that one was really close for me. And I'm saying this as Shaq's my favorite player of all time.
Right. I just feel like the impact, you have to take the impact the player had on the game. And Shaq and the only people on this list who had an individual impact on the game would be LeBron, Curry, and Shaq. Right? Like they are different than everyone else. Kobe, as great as Kobe is, Kobe was great, but he was a lesser version of Michael Jordan, right? Like he didn't really have an individual impact on the game the way Steph Curry did. Steph Curry changed how the game is played. Like, and then Shaq also just a beast. Like if you remember the time, like grown men, like little boys compared to Shaq.
We've never seen anything like
it. Yeah. And LeBron, obviously, the size of Karl Malone, the skill set of like a hybrid Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, like just a 101, a unique thing. The other players on the list, I think, pretty reasonable comps to other players, maybe even lesser so, right? And so that's why, to me, the top 3 players on the list are LeBron, Shaq, and Curry.
Yeah, it just gets it's a little tricky when you chop off the 90s for some of these guys, because then there is like a bit of a recency bias where Duncan, Kobe, and Shaq are all, and you could throw up, I mean, AI, Nash to a lesser extent, Dirk a little bit, KG, like all these guys are, it disproportionately favors the 2000s guys versus the 90s guys.
The one I feel like got snubbed that should be on the list, I feel, is Ray Allen.
I mean, I
think people forget he was a three level scorer, 2 championships, arguably one of the 3 best shooters of all time.
Would you put him over any of these guys?
Definitely put him over Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce won Finals MVP though.
I'm not huge. Yeah, but he didn't. Not until he had a team around him. Not until he had Garnett and Ray Allen. Like people forget, Ray Allen was a 3 level scorer, prior to him getting older and filling a role on two
I,
championship teams. And the shot he made, for the Heat, that's history making.
yeah, and
And
2001 Eastern Conference Finals with the Bucks. Although did Pierce make one Eastern Conference Finals prior to? I think that the Celtics might have made it. It might have been 2000. It was either 2002 or 2003 against the Nets. They made it with him and Walker. I lean Pierce between the two. I think actually. So I'm gonna now completely contradict myself and go into recency bias mode. I think Shea should be ahead of Tatum and Melo. Like
I agree.
the 2024-25 season Shea just had is better than any season Melo or JT have had in their careers. Now, like JT has a little bit more of a sample size in like more years collectively, but he didn't win conference finals MVP. He didn't win finals MVP, and he hasn't won an MVP. Shea just won all three, and I think overall had a more dominant season, more historic season. And then Melo won conference finals, and I just like as a longevity component, I guess in comparison. But I just think Shea, I thought was the second best player last year collectively. I don't think there was ever a point in Carmelo Anthony's career where he was legitimately in that conversation for like second, like even going back to the 1 year they made the conference finals, like Kobe and LeBron and Wade were all clearly ahead of him. I would even throw in Chris Paul at that time, like late 2000s. Chris Paul was the runner up in MVP in 2008. So yeah, I mean, I know like people love Melo, like he's got a cult following because of Syracuse and because of the just his game and who he was. But like I think Shea, based on the last season he had, has like once you get to this range, you could, I mean, I don't know, like Kid, obviously 2-time MVP, AD, I think is had an underrated first ballot Hall of Fame career. The other guy I look at is Luka. I actually think Luka's too low. I would have Luka ahead of Dwight. Like Luka's
sure.
5-time first team All NBA. Going to make it this year as well if he stays healthy. He led it, like Dwight won a championship, but he won a championship as a backup center and did play a big role. I don't want to minimize his role with the 2020 Lakers, but like Luka, the theoretical argument in terms of like their peaks would be Dwight led a team to the finals in 2009. Well, Luka did that in 2024. So I think peak Luka is better than peak Dwight.
Where would you have AI?
I'm a little bit lower on AI.
Where would you have AI?
I mean, I would have him over Russ. I don't think I could get there over Harden or Nash. But I am more analytics minded.
Would you have Melo in your top 25 at all?
Honestly, on this list, I would have Melo 25th. And if you wanted to make the case for Ray Allen, or I mean, we haven't even mentioned like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Like I think Tony Parker is a real case over Melo. I'm not the biggest Melo guy in like I just think it was a lot of just like a lot of offense that didn't necessarily lead to winning. Like because look at
the difference between Kobe and Duncan.
Go ahead.
So I feel like the difference between Kobe and Duncan is bigger than people give it credit for. Kobe is, in my opinion, clearly better than Duncan. I kind of feel like Tony Parker and Duncan, they kind of benefited from the system they played in. I don't want to say they were strictly system players, but if you look at their career numbers, those are not gaudy numbers. Those are not Luka numbers. They're not LeBron numbers. They're not Kobe numbers. They're not AI numbers. They didn't have the outweighted impact on the percentage of scoring on their team that these other players had. And but I don't want to take anything away from Duncan. I just don't think it's even. A lot of people will put Duncan ahead of Kobe, or even make Kobe and Duncan like a close battle. I don't really think it's close. I think Kobe was a far better player than Duncan.
I think it's close, but I do have Kobe ahead of him. But I think from my money, I think Duncan's arguably the most underrated. Like I just, if he was on your team, you were winning 50 games. And I know, like, obviously Pop deserves a big part of that. One of the 2 or 3 greatest coaches of all time. Manu Ginobili, Tony. Like, I actually think Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker are overrated is a strong word, but like they looked better next to Duncan in comparison with some of the, like, they were great players in their own right. But I think the fact that you could even put Tony Parker in that Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Chris Paul class. I mean, I don't think he is in the same caliber of player, but like the fact that you could argue it from like a career accolades and numbers perspective to some degree, that to me is more of a testament to Duncan. I also thought he should have won Finals MVP in 2007 over Parker. I'm on the Kobe side of the argument. I do think it's relatively close. Now, one interesting thing here though is looking at this list. Melo is the only player on this list who has not either won an MVP or led a team to the finals. And most of the list has won championships, but so like going through it, obviously the top 11, 12 go without saying, but like Chris Paul, finals with Phoenix, James Harden, MVP, Nash, 2-time MVP, Russ, MVP, also been to the finals, Iverson, MVP and finals, Dwight, championship, Luka, finals, Pierce, multi-time finals and champion, AD title, Kidd, finals and MVP, Tatum, championship, Melo, neither finals or MVP, and then Shea. So yeah, I mean, I think just from a career perspective, like Melo is kind of the one here that sticks out in terms of like his scoring is carrying a lot of his stature here.
Yeah, you can definitely argue of all these players, Melo played the least winning basketball. And I would put Shea ahead of Tatum too, like you did. And Luka, would you say Luka cracks top 18? Top 15, top 10?
Yeah. You're saying long term or right now?
Right now.
I mean, I think that the top 12 is pretty set in stone. And then I am a Chris Paul guy. I think like he's had a really odd career where it not to make excuses for him, but it does feel like this is like the 10th percentile outcome of Chris Paul's career that I believe he's a winner and very much on that same level as like a Nash and a Kidd. And technically he is above those guys here, but just for a variety of reasons didn't work out in terms of winning a title. I think like once you get to this range, you could argue Luka. Like I think individually his peak is arguably higher already, but going to be higher than like the Paul, Harden, Nash group. So I think you could argue for him up here, but obviously like Chris Paul, I mean, he's played 20 years, so he's got a longevity argument. In like how you weigh that versus, I do think from a peak perspective, Luka's peak is already like 2024. Luka is probably better than any season Chris Paul, Harden, or Nash has had. But Nash obviously won a couple MVPs. Harden, Chris Paul, I don't know. That's tough. Like how you delineate the longevity versus the peak.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a really nuanced conversation. It really depends on what you value and what you put stock in. How much championships matter, how much being the leader on the team, that wins a championship matters. What percentage of the points you're generating for your team that goes to the finals or wins a championship? Where do you where do you separate people? I guess, but for me, like I feel the clear separation from three players to the rest is the impact that they had on the game as a whole. And those are the three players I would put in my top three: Shaq, Curry, and LeBron.
All right. Let's get into the new All-Star game format. New All-Star game format, but we'll wrap with this one. 3 teams of 8, so still 24 All-Stars. It's going to be 2 USA teams and then 1 international team. The odd thing with this is that it's still going to be 5 starters in each conference, and they're picking 12 West, 12 East, but then they're going to combine those 12 from each conference into 24 and then break that up into 3 teams of 8, 16 USA, 8 international. But then if for some reason one of the 2 sides is not at 16 or at 8, they're going to then select players to fill out the rosters to make it 16 and 8. So it's very complicated. I will say, like, clearly the current All-Star format has not been working. They tried something last season that did not work. They're, I think, trying to tap into the Olympics buzz that we had in 2024 and just like the excitement around the US versus the world and how that gap is shrinking, if not, shrunk entirely. I think it's interesting that we had the MVP conversation earlier with Andrew, and for both of us, our top 5 candidates in MVP were all international players. And I would state right now, I think the 5 best players in the NBA are all international players. So it is going to, like, the US certainly has the depth, right, of just like the league. But I think the top of the league, like, 5 of those 8 should be Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Shea, and Wemby. And that's a pretty insane, 5-man unit. So I guess I get what they're trying to go for. I would ideally like it to just be East and West. The guys try, or at least try for like 2 of the 4 quarters. And I don't know if that's like a bigger cash prize, or we've seen that kind of work, I guess, with the NBA Cup. But what's your quick thoughts on the new format? And like, does any of it entice you, or do you see the upside with any of it?
No,
I see
I'm
you
out
shaking
on
your
the
head.
new format. It doesn't, like, you're going to potentially have people who probably shouldn't be all-stars being all-stars, maybe to fill out a roster just because they're international or because they're a US player. Like, I don't think it's going to make them play any harder because the international players aren't playing for their country. It's not, you're
No.
not really, maybe you can make an argument that American players are, but I mean, the starting 5's all going to be from different countries, even though they're on the international team. But then, it's going to be one from Greece, one from Canada, one from Serbia, one from Slovenia, one from France. It's not even a Europe team, right? Because Shea's from Canada, so it's not even like it's Team Europe versus Team North America or something. I think you're. I think the NBA just has to accept it's a weekend that is more show than anything else. They're not going to get rid of it. They're never going to get rid of
No.
All Star. They probably should, but they never are going to get rid of All Star Weekend. It's a money thing, and I mean, if there's no real way to fix it, then just do what it's always been done. The issue I think really became like the dunk contest is bad because none of the young guys want to do it. The guys you'd want
Yeah.
to see, like Zion's never, like you never had Zion. Has Ja ever been in the dunk contest? I don't think he has. Has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
you don't have any
It's
of the guys you want. It's just
I've started to tune
just
out with
you
All
can't.
Star Weekend, and like I'm a basketball sicko who like loves this stuff and loved like I like recently tuned out the last 2 or 3 years. So it took me even a while to finally just be like, okay, this is such a mess that like I just don't really want, like I'm going to take the weekend to kind of take a little bit of a break and get ready for the second half of the season, or the final third of the season. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I have my list, so I could go first. But in the spirit of today's show, we were doing way too early awards predictions. Let's do way too early all-star starters. We do have to factor in, technically the format is 50% fans, 25% players, 25% media. But let's just go based on merit. 3 front court players, 2 back court players, east west, 5 west, 5 east.
Yeah,
I could give you my list first if you want.
Let's. Well, do you want to start east or west?
Let's do west.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So west, I have my front court is Jokic, Wemby, and Şengün, and my backcourt is Luka and Shea.
Luka and Shea for sure. I kind of wish they put Luka as a forward, because I actually would like to vote for Austin.
I think you could technically vote for him as a 4, but then it will. I think he's going to get primarily most of his guards as a backcourt player.
I'll just do it. I'll do it for fun. Let's go Shea and Austin in the backcourt, and I'll go Luka, Joker, and Wemby in the front court.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think 4 of the 5 are locks. It's just a matter of who's your 5th guy. Even with I would still go Şengün over Austin, but I think it's close. You could, like, I had both of them on my All-NBA second team, so they're on a similar tier for me. And then East, I'm now going to cheat a little bit with the positional designation, but my front court is Giannis, Evan Mobley, and Cade Cunningham, and my back court is Tyrese Maxey and Donovan Mitchell.
Nice. Yeah, I got to give it to Maxey and Mitchell, and Cade's been insane. Giannis, yeah, I'm with you on your East.
So yeah, so I think that's a good snapshot of where we're at currently in the league, and we'll see how things progress. And then final thing here before we wrap, we got a super chat from Connor. Thank you for the super chat. Are the AD trade reports legit? If so, what are some teams that would take the chance on him? I see Mini as a team that might. They can do Gobert and Reed. To be completely honest, like, I'm not as tapped into the Dallas side. My understanding is they are going to explore the market, but I don't think there's necessarily a mandate to trade AD. One thing I will note is that I think it's a pretty difficult contract to trade. It's not quite Paul George level, but looking at AD making in the 50s for the next couple of years, then going all the way up into the low 60s for a guy who's now in his about to be in his mid 30s and has the injury history that he has, I think it's going to be like the thing I said last night on my show was that I think he's going to have to get healthy and then probably have a pretty good, like, 3 to 4 week stretch for a team to pull the trigger on that. Because I think if you're trading for AD, you're obviously not trading to get off money unless you have like 2 terrible contracts you're getting off of, but like Dallas isn't going to do that. So realistically, if you're trading for AD, you're trying to sell your fan base on, we're going for it. This is the missing piece. This is going to elevate us into a certain status in the playoff hierarchy. And it's like some team that's desperate to take the next step. But you can only really do that in good conscience if AD has been healthy for a period of time and like back to being AD from, I would say, like 2024. If he doesn't do either one of those things and he can't stay healthy leading into the trade deadline and he doesn't get back to being that player or close to it, I think it's, go back to what you said earlier with Nico, like, I think it's franchise malpractice or GMing malpractice if you trade for AD. Like, I don't think you can take on that level of salary with the concerns about can this guy stay healthy and can this guy still be a top 10 to 15 player in the league. So if it's kind of status quo with him and he doesn't get healthy or he doesn't return to his prior production, I think they're gonna have a really tough time trading him, at least in this trade cycle. Maybe in the offseason or maybe at next season going into the deadline, they could flip him. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that you can just flip AD based on what we've seen from him in Dallas from a health perspective. That's a massive risk that you're potentially setting up another Paul George type situation. And so I say all this to say maybe the Kings, maybe the Kings talked themselves into it. I don't know what that trade looks like, but that's like the only team off the top of my head that I could see being desperate enough to like overlook the injury risk. Otherwise, I do think the biggest step in this process has to be AD returning, being healthy for like some sort of timeline or timetable, and also like dominating. If he doesn't do those two things, I think they're gonna have a tough time trading him.
Well, here's the thing, though. I don't know that trading him benefits them all that much. Like after this, so I think they should punt on this season, get Kyrie and AD healthy, and then go into next season and see what you got. Plus, they have a shot because they do control their draft pick for 2026, so they have a shot at Peterson. Maybe they can create the best of both worlds, like a win now and a future Peterson and Flag, and then Kyrie and AD. But I mean, they don't control any picks till 231. So what does it to 2031? So what does it do? What good does it do them to be bad the next few years? You kind of have to. I think good.
They got next year's pick, obviously, but that's it.
Yeah, after 2026, they don't have any control. But here's the scary thing, right? Say they bring AD back and he is performing well. Like, who are they going to look to make a trade with? Okay, if I'm them, I'm looking to make a trade with OKC or the Spurs because they have my draft picks. So I can get my draft picks back, and they have young talent, and I can get young talent and draft picks, which is scary. I mean, Shea and Chet and AD together, or Wemby and AD together.
That's the one. Wemby and AD, I really like together as a duo. Then AD gets to play power forward, though he could technically do it next to Chet as well. But yeah, I like that one. This one, I like the Bulls one too. That's the other one.
I like that because he'll want to be there, and Chicago is home, and they're playing well right now. That's the other thing is like it's easy to say, oh, just trade Kyrie, trade AD, but you got to find a team that wants them. You have to find a team where they're gonna want to be, because I mean, you look at AD right now, it's almost funny. I think I shared this in the group text that we have about it's not only did Luka and AD flip flop cities, they flip flop physiques. Like if you've seen the pictures of AD lately, he's looking a little on the hefty side. And so like, he obviously did not want to leave LA. And so I don't know. I think the best course forward is the whole Pat for now. Kind of punt on this season, see if they can get who they can get in this draft. Because if they get Peterson, I think we can talk. They might have a window. They might have a window of a year or two after this season, because he gives them everything they don't have. He can shoot. He can score from 3 levels. He's a dynamic player. This gives Flag another year. If Kyrie and AD get back healthy, the pieces they have around, they can move PJ. They can move Gafford maybe and get some more shooting, because what they really need is playmaking and shooting. And Kyrie can give you some of that, and then kind of see what you get in the draft. But I don't think it's as easy for them as, well, we'll just trade and get young players picks, because they're not picks you really have. You don't know where those picks are. They're probably not going to be picks that are very good.
Yeah, no, I agree with your assessment and your strategy for them. I mean, I think for me, it just comes down to like, I don't think the AD trade. I think that, I mean, that's going back, full circle here with Nico and just this whole situation, like clearly the AD trade was tradable going back to last season, and like had the Lakers, let's say the Luka situation ever materializes, like I think that could have been a tradable contract, but with, in theory, right? Obviously, if it played out the way it's played out, then it wouldn't have been. But like with the way things have played out since then, I think that's a pretty tough. Like it's not Paul George, Joel Embiid. He's still a different class of player right now, and I would have more confidence in him than like Paul George is looking like a role player, like decent starter, but not. And obviously he's not even back yet, but like going back to last year with Philly, and then Embiid has still had his flashes, but he's on a minutes restriction, and he's he's not really posting up anymore. He's much more of a face-up jump shooting guy. So like those two guys are at different phases of their career. I don't think AD is quite there yet, but the weight, the conditioning, and then also just the fact that he's played in 14 of 41 games for Dallas, it's like I can't. So even I think there was the Knicks were mentioned as a potential trade. Like, sure, if you told me both guys are going to be healthy for the full season, I'd rather have AD than Karl Anthony Towns, but I'd rather have Karl Anthony Towns than like an injured AD, right? So I don't see how New York even considers that, just because I don't think you can give up Karl Anthony Towns for AD. So I think he's got to be healthy and he's got to be producing at a certain level just to even have that contract like feasibly be tradable. And then there's the conversation of like, what are you getting back, and does it make sense with your timeline and some of the restrictions and just the bind that Dallas is quite frankly in right now, with not controlling their future picks, but also not really being good enough to contend. That's one of the worst spots to be in the NBA. And the architect behind that was let go yesterday. But Keoni, appreciate you for hopping on for our longest segment of the Corner 3 up to this point. But anything you want to plug before we get out of here? I think I know what you're going to say, but want to hear you say it anyway.
Join the membership. We got the merch coming. Hit like, subscribe. Yeah, we're ready for a big season with Buha's Block, Beyond the Block, Corner 3. We're here for all your NBA coverage needs.
Yes, sir.
Oh, get in that Discord too.
Yes, let's get in the Discord. Join memberships. Make sure you like and subscribe like this video, subscribe to the channel. And of note, I will be doing playback tonight for the first time this season. My voice has finally returned and I'm feeling better. So we'll be going live about 5 minutes before the projected tip with Lakers Thunder. Obviously, it'll probably start 5 to 10 minutes after tip, but we'll be going live for the entire game on playback. We'll also be streaming it to YouTube. And then after, we'll take like a quick 10-minute break and then go live with the post-game analysis. And then tomorrow, we're doing Lakers Collective at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then we'll be going live at 5 p.m. with Cranjis to talk about Lakers Thunder and where the Lakers are at up to this point in the season, how LeBron is going to fit in, where the defense is at, where the offensive organization is at, all the stuff that Cranjis can break down at a really high level. So a lot of exciting stuff going on over the next 24 to 36 hours. So make sure you are tapped in, and the best way to do so is to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications. But for Keoni and myself, thank you so much for watching and listening. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back in a few hours. I will talk to you all then. Shout out to the Late Night Gang.